Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Crossroads of Cognizance, the place where we are creating a discussion, a live community where we incorporate conversations about magic, spirituality, and energy. Here is where you'll find tips and tricks from the two of us as professional energy workers and magic workers. And we hope that our wisdom will support you and others through finding healing, shifting your experiences, and expanding your lives. And we've already got some hellos. Hi, Bram. Hi, Dad. Deb. um, so we have an interesting topic today, and Katrina will be guiding us through this masterfully. And that topic is things that speed up magical energy. And hi, Crystal from Kansas. And so, as we navigate that journey, or rather, before we navigate that journey, we want to kind of let you know who we are if this is your first time here. So, a couple of housekeeping things. If you're on YouTube, keep doing what you're doing. We're seeing your comments just fine. If you're on Facebook, click that stream so we can have you as a part of our journey. And hit that like and subscribe button if you want to know where we are each week. Although next week it will be we may be taking a little small break because Dahlia will be away. But anyway, in the here and now, we have some introductions to make too. If this is your first time joining us, I am Dahlia Rose. I am the founder of the Conduit School, and I work to teach and help support others' healing practices through being a conduit for high vibrational energies. I teach meditation, teach about healing and crystals, and I love talking about astrology at any given time. We'll throw it into the conversation. I'm also someone who pulls together ancient healing modalities to support others in their healing processes and to support my students in learning. And I do all this because I believe we need to reevaluate how we look at healing, reconnect with our bodies, and feel empowered to be more than we ever thought possible. But I am not here alone on this crazy Thursday.
Hi, everybody. I'm Katrina Rasbold. I rub eggs on people. So moving so I'm a witch of over 40 years. I am a healer. I've written right around 40 books on magical arts and also on fiction and different other subjects. And I do spell work for people. I do cleansings for spiritual cleansings for people, and I also do readings for people, and all of that has gone online as of last year when I semi-retired and pulled myself out of public practice, and I now just work entirely online. And that's what I do. I'm part of crossroadsoccult.com. My husband and I run that, and we make and sell magical products at that place. That's also where you can order any of the services that I provide. And today's topic is one that was one of the first topics I ever wrote about professionally, and so it's very
Really?
close to me. Yeah, it's one that I've really enjoyed. I've lectured on it all over the world, and I enjoy it very much because a lot of people really, truly don't know all of the layers you can put on top of an intention to build it up and push that energy a little bit harder. Now, Eric and I wrote 2 books on this. There's the first one, which is Energy Magic, and it's available ebook and paperback on Amazon.com. And it's really about the power of manifestation. And we talk about in that book how you connect to higher self and work in a clean and a sacred fashion in order to manifest. We talk about what speeds up energy, what slows down energy, and how to best direct your intention to get the strongest results. We also found that some people wanted things a little bit faster and easier, and so then we wrote the little book of the properties of magical energy. And that really is just a condensed version of energy magic. It just goes into basically what speeds up magic and what slows it down. so that people can just have a quick reference. And that's also available on Amazon.com in ebook and also in paperback. So, what we wanted to look at, and everybody who does any form of manifestation, if your heart is truly in it, your goal is to usually get it as soon as you possibly can, get what you envision or better, and to bring the greatest chances of fulfillment into that. There are a lot of things that can work against what you're trying to do and provide resistance. That's a whole other broadcast altogether. But there are things that people do that trip themselves up. And that's not what we're focusing on today. What we're focusing on today is what can you do to increase the likelihood that what you're attempting to manifest is going to happen, and to add extra power to what you're doing. So that's how we always saw it. We came up with a dozen or so ideas. I know that Dahlia is going to have things that she does. And some of these things that I do, she's actually better at. And so as we're discussing it, she's got crystals.
Oh,
Crystals.
okay.
Not just the one from Kansas, but the ones that Dahlia has everywhere. She's an absolute expert on them. So we're going to talk about some of the things that I feel really accentuate what you're doing. You do not have to be a witch to do these things. You just have to be attempting to manifest something. And really, if you think about, a lot of people get really scared off by the idea of spell work, the idea of magical work, or anything kind of woo-woo sounding. But if you go into a church and light a candle and send your wishes, that is a form of energy work. It's connecting with a divine power to produce a desired outcome that you want to have happen. And so this really is about what are the things that we can build up our intention with and produce more power. So I got my list to Dahlia, and from there we're just going to use those as buzzwords to talk about some of the things that we found really work for us.
And I'm following along. Sorry, I had a moment there. You might have seen me mouthing off screen. I do have children going back and forth. So as we get into this,
and we're amongst royalty. Did you see? Our Corby's here.
Oh, hi, Corby.
Hi, Corby. It's wonderful to see you, darling. So here are the things that, in no particular order, I find really boost what I do. Now, these things that I mentioned, I employ every single time I do spell work for a client. And I use every single one of these points that I've got on my list. And so they are the ones that I have really tried and true over decades and just really work for me. The first one is assigning ritual to what you do. Now, when we blow out the candle on a birthday cake, that is a form of ritual. When we use, for instance, there was an old, and I do mean old, like 40 years old, incense company called Ayers Incense. And they made, and we're going to get to scents here in a little bit, but they made a product called, or a scent that was proprietary called Dragon Cloud. I got the oil, I got the incense. That was my signature smell. And so again, we're going to talk about smells in a little bit, but Ayers went out of business. They reinvented themselves as Birch Bay Aromatics. And I can sometimes get it, but I've been having order problems with it. But when I smell that and the ritual of lighting that, that becomes a magical environment for me. And there's just going through the motions of ritual is something very sacred to me and many other people, but also your own rituals become sacred to you, no matter how mundane or OCD they might seem. They are a part of your sacred construct. And there we wrote an ebook called The Art of Ritual that goes into how to set up effective rituals, but really just deciding to set aside time, space, and attention to a magical process is of itself a ritual. Now, you use ritual quite a bit. How do you
Absolutely.
find it influences what you do?
So for me, rituals are more like an anchor into that connection process, and it gives some stability to life for me. Um, which might seem contrary, like life should give stability so that I can do my rituals. But for me, the importance of connecting with the divine is there, and then rituals indicate that this is something that may take that may be done daily, and so that's my it's what grounds me. If I don't do my rituals, which does happen, I mean, I get up and there's madness between two children, then if I miss my rituals, I'm definitely out of sorts. And then, as far as supporting others in healing work, my rituals are a staple because it's something that pulls me into focus for connecting with their
Mhm.
energy. So those rituals are going to look different, um, based on what I'm doing for myself and what I'm doing for others. And then there's some combination of those things when I pull together ceremony, because I have to ritualize myself, bring myself into the space, and then bring others' energy with it. So it's like it's going from personal to impersonal to like some sort of energetic mix. But rituals indicate,
Mhm.
or rather inform, all of those practices for me, especially when it comes to manifestation.
That's a beautiful summation of the importance and really vital component of ritual. And I love what you said about how it anchors you, because even the most magical person on earth, and I'm talking somebody who lives in an ashram, who never has to worry about where their next meal is going to come from or if their car is going to start, even they are going to have to work to stay in that mindset. It's going to be easier, but it's still going to be an effort. And so for the rest of the whole wide world that has a lot of variables in their life and has a world out there that's working very hard to not deliberately derail them, but is competing for attention. The ritual can be really vital to getting you, as you said, in the zone. So you come home from work, you've got some energetic work that you need to do, and you've just gotten out of your car, you come in, you put down your bags, you take care of the pets, you take care of the kids, you take care of whatever needs to happen, you go into your room. You're not automatically going to be in that magical zone just because you're in your room and settled. You have to have those moments that take you to higher self, that get you to where you need to be. And ritual helps to do that. Now, ritual doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be, oh, we're going to cast this circle and we're going to call in these quarters and we're going to have this altar here and this altar here and this altar here. And we're going to have representations of all the elements. We're going to bring in God and Goddess. We're going to, this huge list of things that you have to do. And a lot of people think that's the case. But ritual can really just be about, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes. I'm going to light my favorite incense. I'm going to make sure my door is closed, and I'm going to focus. That can be ritual. And so it's really about what works for you and what feels the most sacred to you.
I think ritual is also important for, I mean, this is a topic for another time, but like meditation. I mean, that whole concept of not just sitting down and bringing with you all that excess stuff that could hinder your ritual, or
Mhm.
I mean, even down to a ritual of like, I don't know if anybody else does this, but when I come home from work or outside, especially if it's been the mall or something like that, I'm immediately like, clothes, I need new clothes. I need to shower, I need to whatever. And so, uh, yeah, rituals
Yeah.
are deeply important.
For some people, it's just a matter of their ritual is that before they go do manifestation work, they shower. And that washes away the mundanity, gets rid of the trials of the day. They feel clean, they feel refreshed. They can put on something flowy and comfortable and just go sit, and now they're in their zone.
Right.
So anyone who just stops what they're doing in their mundane life does a magical or sacred or an energetic work and then goes right back to it is not going to have the superior results that a person will have if they use some form of ritual to get themselves anchored and in that zone and all the way up to higher self so that they can more easily connect to the divine and they can be very clear about their intention. And this isn't something that I necessarily included on the list, but ritual helps clarify your intention and make sure that you're not doing this for the wrong reasons, that you're really confident that this is the best course of action. This is what needs to happen. This is the most positive thing, and to focus on that. So yeah, ritual is all about getting you in the zone so you can focus and be connected. So
Oh, looks like you and
absolutely.
Bram are at the same realm here.
Absolutely. So the next thing I have on the list is the simplest and one of my favorite, and that's the use of color to create certain energies. So we know that color is used even in the mundane world. Now, you're not going to see very many prisons that are painted red on the inside,
Jesus.
or mental health facilities. We're not going to see many restaurants that are gray on the inside. In restaurants, they want to invigorate you and wake you up. And so we know that the frequency of color and the vibration of color is a scientifically backed process that has an effect on people. So if we tailor the accoutrements of our ritual, of our manifestation process, with the colors that support what we're doing, that gives us an extra color boost. So if we're doing money work, trying to manifest prosperity, we're going to want to use greens, we're going to want to use golds and silvers that represent money to us. If we're working on love, most people are going to use pink or red, the colors of passion, the colors of divine love, the colors of self-love. If people are trying to calm some troubled seas with their manifestation work, they might use blues or purples or soothing colors, green to ground. So it's really just about Googling color magic and finding the generally associated energies that come along with the different colors, and it's almost universal. You aren't going to see a lot of arguments out there about what the different colors mean, and if you do, it's just somebody else's perspective and you have a perspective too. So if you're saying, well, yellow and orange mean joy and happiness and warmth, but I really hate the color orange, I just can't get around it. So to me, the vibrance of red means joy and happiness. That's okay. It's about what triggers are inside you regarding these colors, coupled with a universal understanding of the frequency of that color. So you can use your altar cloths, your if you have flowers in the area, your candles that you use, the different visual cues that you set up, that you're working with. With us, we use mojo bags, and those are colored to certain purposes. So you just figure out your color scheme, even make a note of it. That's why we have what we call a book of shadows or a grimoire. It's to keep track of the different processes we have discovered. Like red makes me feel good, gray makes me feel sad, things that are just noteworthy. But color is a really important part of our magic. And one thing people notice about color right away is that Dahlia is always in white. So that is a difficult color for you.
It is, for reasons that a lot of people don't expect. White is associated with purity and cleansing and all of these things. I actually wear it. One, I was guided. It was 2000, I want to say 2018, was guided to wear white. And in fact, last year, the guidance was like, spice it up with a little color. We're working on it. We're working on it. But it was from a place of being able to be a proper mirror for healing. So when people sit in front of me, I can be neutral and whatever supportive role they need me to be in at the time. I can also work with color magic because white can be blended with anything and not offset it.
Right.
So it has nothing to do with my purity. I don't know that I'm all that pure, depending on the subject matter. But it is to be a mirror. Actually, it's not about
Very
um,
nice.
sacredness or anything.
What's special about white? Now, this comes into play. We mentioned that you use white when you're choosing a candle to work your manifestation processes. Also, when you choose your stones, a lot of the
Oh,
intrinsic energies of stones and crystals come back to the color of that crystal. And there are going to be little idiosyncrasies about each one that make it special. But if you're using a green rock, you can use it for prosperity. If you're using a red rock, you can use it for love. So the more color that you add to what you're doing, the greater your output's going to be energy wise. And the nice thing about white that I love, and Eric and I kind of had little, not arguments, but disagreements about this from time to time. White, rather than being the absence of color, is the presence of all color. And so a white candle can be substituted for
yes.
absolutely any candle you want to use because that energy of that color is present in white. And so you can, if you're saying, oh, I really need to do this love spell, but I do not have a red candle, grab that white candle. It'll program just as well as any of your other colors.
I have
The next
definitely
thing on
done
the
that.
list that I love is what do you smell? Now, the sense of smell is one of the most visceral triggers that we have. And sometimes, let's say that you got sick off of a food one time. You may not be able to tolerate smelling that food for quite some time afterwards. I remember when I was a teenager, I drank too much in the way of peppermint schnapps. And I couldn't even stand the smell of peppermint for years and years. So it can have a really strong impact. You can be standing in the line at the bank and the person in front of you wears a cologne that reminds you of your mom or an old boyfriend or something, and just the waves of nostalgia come over you. If you are, and I'm not want to get too heavy into the what slows you down, if you're in a sacred space with somebody and there is just a virulent smell coming from them or from the area, it can really distract from what you're trying to do. And where we run into this as witches sometimes is people who don't clean their cat boxes effectively. And so you're trying to have ritual with somebody and your eyes are just burning from the ammonia.
Oh boy.
And so the other side of that is that if you have sense that you love a certain incense, a certain herbal mix, so for some people it's the smell of sage, which is not one of Dahlia's favorites, but the smell of cedar takes her to higher self. So everybody has their jam, and Chinese, oh man, when you're pregnant, everything's out the window, man.
Yeah.
The whole game changes as far as
Everything
smell.
becomes so much more intense right there with
Everything
you.
is suspect very suddenly, too. So, absolutely, adding scent to what you're doing can help. And if you are even in a cursory way researching aromatherapy, you can add to the process of your manifestation with that. So if you're using aromatherapy that's soothing, that's going to be nice for a calming ritual. You wouldn't want to burn cinnamon or a cinnamon or clove based incense when you're trying to calm things down. So you just find what works for you and what accentuates that mood. So do you use, now I use things like a diffuser for oil that, does the mist into the room. I use herbs quite a bit, burning herbs. I use resins like copal and frankincense and myrrh, and I use Palo Santo. There's all different kinds of smells that I use depending on the energy that I want to Okay. The energy that I want to invoke. So, how do you use your different scents in your work?
So I try to focus, it's very ordered for me, and I guess this is part of the whole ritual process. I try to use particular scents for clearing first, and then I'll use an incense to bring in a specific energy, like in the way that Buddhist monks and a couple of other temple working practices use incense for prayer, is how I will commonly work with those. I have some considerations to make depending on the environment. So I have a pet bird. So resin is not going to happen because I want her to continue to live. And so, but if I'm in, like, if I'm in, well, when I was in my shop, actually, it was, we would get it so smoky. Or if I'm in somebody else's home and they don't have pets to worry about, I'm happy to smoke them out with as much energy as possible. One of my favorite, two of my favorite potent energies for the clearing process to begin the rituals and things like that are dragon's blood and juniper. I love
I
cedar.
messed up before, by the way. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I assigned cedar to you and it was juniper. I do apologize. I think I did that on last week's show too.
No,
That
no, no,
juniper was
cedar.
your favorite, not cedar.
It is, but cedar is like close second. The only reason I have conflict with cedar is it doesn't want to stay lit when I'm burning it.
True
Um,
story.
but cedar is great for setting the space. So it's something that I would use after if I didn't have like an incense stick, if I was just working with herbs. Um, but I am very much like, those are kind of my go-tos. I'll, the only time I use sage is when I'm doing Olympia because my mentor here showed how amazing sage can be as far as reading smoke. The others are not really great for reading that energy, but
No,
oh yeah, Palo Santo's on the list. Not
Santo's
always able to
great.
get it, but definitely something that works.
So I some people are very sensitive to smells. And so different oils, different smokes really irritate their respiratory systems. If you've got somebody who has COPD or they're just in general asthma or they're just in general very sensitive to it, it's just not going to be as much of a player. But if you do find ones that you like, and even if you find one that you're like, boy, I love this so much, I'm going to always use this incense. That can help with your ritual aspect as well, like I was talking about. So the next thing that you want to think about is what are the sounds that you're hearing when you're working on your manifestation. Some people have specific music that really takes them to higher self. I've worked with people who techno is just the thing for them. Some people it's thrash metal, for some people it's Celtic music, for some people it's drumming. But what sounds around you are helpful? Some people like elemental sounds like a rain stick or a oh, what else? Like the sound of a fountain that's dripping. So
I
finding what sounds are pleasing to you and take you to higher self can be a wonderful way to accentuate the energy of what you're putting out there. If you're trying to focus and the sounds you're hearing are people arguing in another room or the phone ringing or dogs barking, it's not always conducive to good focus. So you have to find your peaceful sounds. Now, for
yeah.
me, I would say I would give it like 30% of magical people really love Enya. And I'm one of that 30%.
Really?
I love Enya
I don't
so
hate
much.
her, but that's not what I would think.
Love. I had one of my mentors who I would guess is about 20 years older than me, male, druid, loved Wilson Phillips. And Wilson Phillips was, I mean, just what sent him into higher self. And I'm just like, okay, it was not my deal. Sometimes it is genealogical. What
Mm,
type of music is going to really pull you into your higher self, depending on where your family's from or a predominance of genealogical influence in your makeup. But yeah, what's the sound doing around you and how can
oh,
it accentuate? Very nice. So we have the power of Spotify and YouTube and Apple Music that lets you that lets you just sample so much stuff.
Yeah.
Figure out what you love.
So one of my favorite go-tos I realized with manifestation, and sort of empowering that or speeding up that magical energy, that energetic energy, doing anything that uh, helps you connect with your crown chakra can also increase your synchronicities and that higher self space, instead of trying to manifest from your heart or your third eye, going up into that higher chakra. And I actually found this, I don't even know if I can show it to you guys on here because it's just on my phone, but this album on Spotify is 963 hertz for those solfeggio frequencies, and every song in there is tailored to that, and it makes for great sacred space music, great manifestation music. And so wanting to take a pause here, because I had asked you guys, and I'm going to ask you guys if you're listening and not reading the comments, what is it that you guys are attempting to manifest this month or this year? Like, we're on this topic of speeding up magical energy. Maybe we could speak to just a few things here and there. But as far as this particular frequency and the topic of sound, I think that's great for what Corby's talking about here,
Mhm.
because trying to bridge the gap between two things means that you have to transcend yourself to be like the vessel, the go between. So if you can get into your crown chakra or connect to your higher self and ask that question, what you get an opportunity to do is to connect to the higher selves of other people, and doing ritual first, then, I mean, it seems like your intention's pretty clear here. Color for this, I don't know. I mean, for bringing things together, white or black, right? Like,
Right, and purple for that crown chakra.
there you go. And
Yeah.
then the crystals, I love rutilated quartz for everything. So quartz is pretty, like, it's a great go-to, just like white is.
Mhm. It's the
Um,
white of stones, yes.
it is master healer. But rutilated quartz has not just that that master healer energy, but the gold frequencies that run through rutilated quartz or silver or tourmaline. Like, you really can't go wrong. Sometimes stones have all three, and you have golden amplifying energy, silver purifying, and the tourmaline is cleansing. So rutilated quartz is my go-to. But what scent to bring those together? Any thoughts on the smell? Like, what would you burn?
Sure. Particularly calendula or marigold mixes are really, and peach. Those are two that are really good for prosperity. And in the instance of what Corby's doing, in addition to bridging uh, conversation with um, different cohorts and different generational groups of people, there's an avenue of money in writing a book. You want to be successful. You want to get it out there. So any scent that maximizes communication, that can also be a blue candle, which is really good for communicating and for throat chakra work. You
Mm.
can work with bay leaf is also a wonderful one to burn for what she would be doing.
Oh, bay
Definitely.
leaves are the best for
They're
everything.
awesome, aren't they? Write your little wish on a bay leaf and burn it, and boy, yeah, it's a
Yeah, and
given.
I think that we've touched on Elsbeth's needs here too. Grab that bay leaf, write your request, your professional request on there, and you could
Mhm.
maybe see some changes. I'm sorry, Katrina, I interrupted.
No, you're all good, let me tell you. So the next thing, sound is really conducive to what comes next, and this is a pro level thing. You have to know what you're doing to do this, and that's trance work. If you
Mm.
have found something that you're able to use to move to the next level of awareness and go into a trance like state, this can be music, this can be dance, this can be meditation. but something that takes you out of your physical body and sends you just way into higher self, that's going to power punch anything you're trying to do. Now, I'm a firm believer that our mundane self is very magical. I really believe that the idea, look, a spam call. Uh, I believe that the idea that, hey, we can only do magic in higher self, we can only do ritual in higher self, I think that's a little bit pretentious. Not everybody can reach trance state,
Right.
but it's something to work toward. And it really puts you in a place of being in the zone. And we've talked about this in our many, many episodes. What episode are we on? Like
80.
80? 80? Yeah. So in our 80 episodes, we have often talked about the importance of higher self. We've talked about the importance of ritual and the importance of meditation. I'm thinking all the things we've gone over that are factoring into this list.
Flow states.
But yeah, if you can do that, that's fantastic. Now, I admittedly am not great at trance. My bet, and that's after practicing for decades, my bet is during like a drum circle. If everybody else is drumming, not me, because it's like rubbing my tummy and patting my head at the same time. But if somebody else is like, we just did drum circles with our two covens, and so during that time when I've got like 13 people drumming around me,
Yeah.
if
You're
I
gonna
just
bliss
sit
out.
there, I'll go straight up.
Yep.
Boom, I'm there. There are certain musics, like there's a CD called From Heart to Crown by Rob Whiteside Wu. And there's another one called Egg of Time by Jeffrey Thompson.
What
And
names?
right? Both of those just knock me on my ass. I can't listen to those when I'm driving because I'm just someplace else. Fortunately, I don't drive often, so I can trance out whenever I want to. But yeah, find your gig, man. Whatever it is that takes you there. And we've done some shows on meditation and about how meditation is not what a lot of people think meditation is. It's
Right.
not the absence of thought. It's about controlling thought. It's about holding space for energy to come into us. And that can be a wonderful way to trance out.
Absolutely. I don't, for anybody who wants to try transfer, so funny. Took a drink, now I'm choking.
You're going to love the next topic.
Guess there's something I really needed to say. So for me, trance is a huge part of channeling. And one of the things that I find particularly helpful is one, you start out with having somebody help you because you don't want, you want to know what energies you're dealing with, and having someone you can trust that is spiritually adept can make all the difference in the world in identifying things so that you know you're on the right path and not just playing in the astral realm, as Katrina would say, catching astral STDs, but that you know kind of what's being presented to you. And then one of the ways that you can really get into those states that I like to teach is rolling your eyes upward and looking at your third eye. It's a Hindu practice, but also from a scientific standpoint, it allows your body to release the same chemicals that it does in REM sleep. And so you can at least get relaxed to edge yourself towards trance. And this is a good question here.
It's a great one. And yes, Eric used binaural beats when he did these 50-minute long crystal singing bowl sound baths. And there's a way of harmonizing the bowls to create the binaural beats, and they're fantastic.
So I know people that have found hemisync distracting. And usually these are there's some neurodiversities with that. So that's not to say they're not useful, but how do you respond? And for me, I love them as well. I love binaural beats, anything brainwave-ish, but I know myself enough that if I go into a song like what I was showing you guys on Spotify and it starts with a bell or a bowl like dinging right at the beginning, it's a no
What
for
just
me.
happened?
Oh, did
Did you say
something happen?
Twatify?
Spotify.
I swear to God, I heard you say Twatify. Like, I can't not hear it now.
Spotify.
I know
But no,
what it is, but I thought you said Twatify. Anyway, I'm sorry. Please
um,
continue.
no. So if you know that like I had a client who like anything having to do with rain or water rushing was overstimulating. So, beware of those possibilities as well. It's not something for you to necessarily get used to, but it's
Mhm.
about knowing yourself in order to get into those trance states. Because it will be unique to you. It's not the same for everybody, that process.
All great stuff. So, some people, when we're talking about trance, do well with certain types of psychotropic drugs. I am not one of those people. Now, in the last sweat lodge we had, winter solstice, in fact, we had been given some chocolate bars that were microdose of mushrooms. And so it's microdose, it's not visual, it's not, making you trip balls or anything like that. So I took a little square of it before I went into the sweat lodge. And the combination of that and being in a sweat lodge and having fasted for the day uh,
Oof.
definitely accentuated my trance work. Just saying. Um, I don't know that it's something I would utilize again because I would be concerned about getting that same effect
Mm,
because of the variances in product. But it was a pleasant experience. It's not something you want to mess with if you're not accustomed to it, really. But trance work can be accentuated by that or be hampered by that, and it's really hard to tell the difference, which it's be until you're in it. So when you mentioned being with somebody trusted, that's always a good plan if you're going to accentuate with any type of um, psychotropic
oh
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that will disorient you, bring a friend, a sober friend.
A sober friend. Have a designated driver for your meditation.
Yeah.
So the next thing, speaking of you choking, is words.
Oh.
And and we use words to solidify our intention. So the hierarchy is that the least substantial use of words is thought. So if we think something, but it doesn't come out of our face hole, the impact of that is minimized.
Right.
So thinking something does affect us energetically and it affects us spiritually. But when we say the word, it's more substantial, primarily not only because we're hearing it, which has an effect, but because there may be witnesses. And when someone is with you and you say something, it is more real than if you think it in your head. So if I am thinking in my head, Susan is such a bitch, and I'm with three people and I say out loud, Susan is such a bitch, that could cause significantly more impact than having just thought it in my head.
You're going to manifest something very quickly.
If you write something, it has greater impact than if you say it because it's in black and white. That's why what you say is rarely admissible in court, but what you write and sign is.
Mm.
So the written word is even more substantial. If you write it and say it at the same time, it has an even greater impact. And so if you just sit and think, I think I'm afraid. I think I'm afraid. I might be afraid. I might be uncomfortable doing this. It's a different feeling than if you say out loud, I'm uncomfortable doing this. Suddenly it becomes more substantial. So words have impact. Use words with your manifestation. Write it down, say it out loud, burn it, send it up to the universe. That gives you a great impact.
Well, we love the fire. Anything for
We
fire.
love to get into it, don't we?
Oh, Is this an excuse to burn something today?
Burn
Yeah.
it all. Burn all the things. So the next thing is calling in the troops. Because if you really want to manifest something and you can get other spiritual, magical, powerful people together, get them all on the same page, pulling the horses in the same direction, you are going to maximize your output. That's why prayer circles work, because you've got people focused on a single goal. This is nothing more than the Newtonian laws of energy conservation at work. This is 8th grade science right here, because the force that you apply to the movement of any object is amplified by more force. So if you've got 2 people pushing a car instead of 1, it's going to roll faster and better. So same thing with magical energy. Get your friend in on it, get focused with them, and as long as everybody's going in the same direction, you're going to have superior results. Unfortunately, if everybody isn't going in the same direction, it can slow you down. So you've got to make sure everybody's totally on board and very clear with the intention. And what's the best way to do that? Write it down and say it out loud.
We had this practice actually in a class that you've heard me a couple times on the show reference a guru coming to my shop and teaching us different energy work practices. And we had this moment where he was like, well, you can manifest anything with this mantra. And it was like 30 people in a room. And we all believed in the person who brought this together. He was a great friend, is still a great friend. And she was like, I want a house in Maine, I think she said. And then we all did it. And then it actually, like a year or two later, did materialize. And it was all, I think, less of us being on the same page, which is so much more powerful. I wish that was probably that way, but more, we loved her that much. And she'd made so many sacrifices and things like that for us that we were just like, yeah, take it. So it also helps to have people that actually want good things for you. And aren't just saying that they do.
There was a guy named Guion Raven who is a writer. He wrote The Magic of Food. And at one of his presentations, he had probably 100 people in the room. And he hadn't written a book yet. He hadn't written The Magic of Food yet. And he said, I want to do this, but I'm a lazy ass and I'm not doing it. So I need everybody in the room to focus on me writing that book and scream at me, write the book, Guion. And everybody did it, and it blew his hair back, and he wrote the book that year.
There you go.
That's a great example of using words and group goals to accomplish a manifestation. Yeah. So I have got 4 more, and 3 of them are fast, and 1 of them is going to take a hot minute. So I'm going to do take a hot minute last and buzz through the next 3. One is to look at your astrological things that are going on and the timing of what you're doing. This is about 4 broadcasts worth of information. So I'm going to do what Gladys Gordillo says and say, GTS, Google that shit. Because you can find what phase the moon is in. You can find what the powers of different times of day are. That's another layer you can put onto your manifestation. Next would be visual cues. If you're sitting in a cluttered, hoarded room trying to do magic, you are going to see lots of distractions. If you're sitting in a room where everything around you is a magical token or is a beautiful statue or is something that makes you feel relaxed and comfortable, you're going to respond better energetically. So pay attention to what's around you, what you're looking at. What's the weather doing? If it's raining outside, that's a great time to do, say, emotion work or intuitive work or work where you want to wash something clean. If it's snowing, that's a great time to do concealment work or cooperative work. And I wrote a whole book on that. It's called Whether or Not. And there's another one called Weather Witchery, all about weather. I've also got a class on that in my Crossroads classroom. But what's the weather doing? And the last one that we'll go into, Dahlia's going to handle, and that's the use of stone and crystals for manifestation. Go, Dahlia.
I mean, there's not much to say about this
I know,
particular
right?
in 2 minutes. But when it comes to crystals and manifestation, one of the things that is powerful about them is that they hold their own frequency and vibration without much external influence outside of your intention that's programmed into them. So what I would say is, if you have a couple stones in your house, you're not sure what they do, go back to your color magic, see how you feel about those colors. Or, Bram brought this up with regard to, I think it was, yes, music. But you can do the same thing with crystals. Let's say you were gifted a stone from somebody meaningful, or it reminds you of someone, or something like that. The energy that you're connecting with is
You gave me this.
is amplified by the intention it was given in and who it was given from. And so you can just connect with that piece, the color, whatever the case is. The fixed structure of a stone is perfect, and so when you apply energy to that, it only perfects that further. And I would say, when you're working with crystals and intention work, manifestation work, please don't think it's all happy-go-lucky, because usually the crystals are there in your life for healing purposes. So what they're going to present you with is the obstacle, and they're going to say, hey, do something about this, or hey, we'll help you with this, we'll give you the strength to get through this, protection, whatever you need, and then go from there. Typically, black stones and red stones are protection and manifestation. And then it skyrockets from there, because I was about to get into all the colors, and I was like, no, there's no time. But that is a whole show. We can do a whole show on crystals.
And we should. Really should.
Drop it in the comments if you want to see it happen.
That's right. So Corby, all of my books are available on Amazon. I'll guarantee you there are only 2 Raspbols on all of Amazon. One of them's me, one of them's Eric. So if you just put my name into Amazon.com, you'll probably get to my author page, and you will see all of the books that I've written, including the ones I mentioned today.
All right, and we have one endorsement for
one endorsement.
Thank you, Heidi. So, you said you were gonna save. Which one was it?
That's it.
Oh, that's all of them.
Crystals was the one that I figured would take the longest. But you were just, man, you had your speech prepared. You were on it. You knocked that out. Elsbeth says yes too.
Okay, all right. We've got a couple more votes for this. Do I do any work with? That's great. See, I didn't have my speech prepared, because here, Graham, thank you. This is actually kind of one of the main crystal things that I do. So yes, I work with crystal grids a lot. Actually, it's my favorite thing to do. When I first got into crystal work, I found myself drawn to Melody's work, and that is just her name, Melody. Unfortunately, she passed within the last, I want to say 3 years, unexpectedly. But her books are out there. You probably have to find them on eBay, because some are out of print. And she did a lot of crystal work on the body. And that was my, like, yes, do this for everybody and myself. And then I moved the grids to the floor, because people shake and move when they're healing. So not damage my babies. I work with crystal grids, and that is, for those who don't know, putting your crystals in a meaningful geometric pattern or a freeform pattern that is, again, it's meaningful to you. And it allows you to kind of have an energetic battery, instead of just like an individual stone is powerful, but when you start to bring in multiple layers of different stones, and you work from the inside out, whatever your intention is now has several different connections and ways of moving through the energy. So you don't just have to stick with one. And like I said, it's a battery. So a crystal grid's energy stays in place until that grid is moved, until, and like, I mean, if you come in and you bump the grid or your pets bump the grid, or one of the things we used to do at the shop is build a crystal grid every day in the beginning of opening. And invariably, when the grid's energy shifted or was decreasing, because like a battery, it will run out of juice, you just recharge it. But when that battery started to drain down for whatever grid was in the middle of the shop, a kid would come along and be like, "What's this?" And then kind of release the energy. um, for a couple of people that were regulars, it was annoying, but I was like, no, this is the letting go process. It was very Buddhist and very Zen, even though it was mostly annoying. But anyway, so unless you move one stone or all the stones, your grid is going to hold your intention in place. And that intention is set through meditation, energy work. If you're adept at doing that, you can hold each stone, program it, and then set it down. You have your energetic battery of a crystal grid. And then what you want to do, some resources out there recommend that you have the grid in a place where light is hitting it. Other resources, like me, say it doesn't matter as long as you are funneling energy to it. So this is for all my closeted crystal and magical people. If you are worried about other people's intentions impacting your grid, like let's say they look at it and they're not happy for you, then you can put that grid in a drawer. When I was in the closet, I used to put my grid in my nightstand, and every day I'd pop it out and be like, hi, send it some more energy, because I was learning Reiki at the time, and then close it back up and let it kind of filter throughout my day. And the other aspect, last thing I'll say on this, because again, we're going to have a crystal show now, is that crystal grid energy is powerful enough to transcend space and time and distance. So you can have one. Elspeth, you mentioned work. Make a crystal grid for work at home or your professional life at home, and the energy will go out in whatever direction. Make sure that if you're for jobs or things you want to see out in the world, the crystals are pointed outward. If you want to bring stuff into the home, you point those crystals inward. And if they don't have points, don't worry about it. But I could talk about this all day, and we're at the end of the show. So thank you, Bram, for that last minute boost on for me to talk about crystal grids. We love you guys for that kind of stuff. So
great conversations today. Thank you, everybody, for participating.
Yeah, make sure you go back and check everything out. We'll do the post-show rundown for for connecting with your to speed up your magical energy. You got 11 things to do. Assign a ritual, number 1. Number 2, clarify your intention. Number 3, use colors. Number 4, you can work with crystals. Number 5, scents really help, using different smells. Number 6, learning or getting into trance work. Number 7, using words to solidify your intention. 8, call in your troops, call in your tribe, call in your teams. Number 9, check your astrology and the timing of things. 10, pay attention. And 11, work with the weather. And how did I miss? I guess it was 12 because crystals was last. So if you are at this section of the video, go back and get your details. And with all of that, we will catch you guys next time here on Crossroads of Cognizance. Thank you for your participation, and bye, everybody.